Well, welcome. Tēnā koutou katoa, he mihi nui, he mihi mahana, kia koutou katoa. Nau mai, hara mai ki te hui i tēnei pō. Ka timata i te hui nei, hei karakia mā tātou. So I'm just going to start with the karakia to bring us together, focus us for this hui tonight. Kei te tuake au, hei karakia mā tātou. Tūtoa mai I runga, tūtoa mai I raro, tūtoa mai I roto, tūtoa mai I waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora ki te katoa, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Kia ore te whānau, kia ore te iwi. Lovely to see you all. Ko wai tēnei, ko Ngāti Kaha Nuni ki Wairarapa, me rangi tānei, me Ngāti Ira o ku iwi. Ko Isle of Man, ko Kotirana, ngā whenua o ku tupuna, ko Dale Corlett tōku ingoa. Kia ora hui hui mai tātou. So my name's Dale, Dale Corlett. I whakapapa to the Wairarapa, to the South Wairarapa, on my grandmother's side, on my dad's side, and Māori and Scottish on that side, and through Isle of Man, end up in Norway, and on my mum's side, it's all whakapapa through Scotland. And I'm very fortunate to be the Tumu Whakarai, the executive director here at Script to Screen, and it's my privilege to be hosting this hui tonight around FilmUp. And very excited to see, I think we've got 30-something people coming in, and we've got something like 80 people signed up, so we might end up with quite a few coming in as we continue the conversation. So thank you for joining us for this hui. It really is just a chance for us to connect with you and to get some information out around FilmUp, the kaupapa itself, why we do it or what it is, and for you to ask any questions you like. So I'm going to hopefully not talk too much. I'll talk at the beginning and give you a bit of an overview, and then really it is a Q&A session. So it's, you're the stars of the show tonight. We really want to hear from you in terms of any questions you've got. There's never a silly question, of course. Anything that is niggling at you or you're not quite sure, ask it, because, you might not be the only one in the room wanting to know that kind of information. So first off, just a show of hands or a thumb, you are here for the FilmUp hui at Script to Screen. Yes. Good. No one's here for anything else. That's good, because I can't talk about anything else. I know there's another event going on tonight, so I don't want to get confused. So as I said, my name's Dale. We've got Monique in the background. She's here running things, so it'll run. Oh, there she is. So it's going to run really smoothly. What we thought we might do to start off with is just start with a quick poll to find out who's on the call. Yep. Okay. So what we want to know, here it is we want to know, if you're a writer, director, or producer, because it's open to obviously writer, director, producers. You might be a writer/director, writer, producer, producer or director, producer. You can be anything you want. Is that the first part of the poll? Oh, there's more to the poll. The second one is, have you applied before? And the third one is, just industry experience, roughly. You don't have to reveal yourself. Like me, you'd put kind of 100+ years. But just to get a sense, so we can get a sense of who's in the room and maybe how to tailor it, but also we can think about that as we're going forward after this hui as well. So more writers and writer directors, but actually a good smattering of writer director / producer. Cool. Only one, only one's applied before. So no, so a lot of people haven't applied. Great. And how many years in the industry? Good range there. Yep. And there's some people like me, probably 100+. Okay, cool. Excellent. Well, lovely to meet you all again. And thank you for coming and taking this time out of your busy lives. Okay, what I'm going to do is give a quick overview of what FilmUp is. I'm not going to repeat what's on the website, because you can obviously go there, but I'm just going to give you some highlights of what the program is and how it kind of operates for Script to Screen. It's been running now, I think it's into its 11th or 12th year. So it's one of our core programs that we've been running for a number of years. It didn't run last year. We ran Rainmakers instead, which was another type of mentorship program, which was slightly differently focused. It wasn't as feature film focused. It was much broader than that. So FilmUp is a mentorship program at its heart. So it is a very bespoke one-to-one mentorship. There's 8 people that are chosen. That's how many we can kind of fund. And as I said, it's a one-to-one mentorship, but there are group activities throughout the process, throughout the 8 months or so. So it's very much feature film focused. It is funded by the Te Tumu Whakaata Taonga, the New Zealand Film Commission. So it's not series, it's not web series, it's not TV series, it's not other forms of content, it is feature film, and it can be feature documentary or feature drama, or animation or other genres, but it is the feature film form. As I said, there's eight places available, and as I also said, it's been running for 11 or 12 years. And what we've seen, we've done some kind of stats on it and looked at it. It does seem to be heavily writer-director focused, although we've had a number of producers do it and get a lot of traction out of it. So it is open to writers, writer-directors, directors, producers, and every mix of those three roles. But in the recent 2 years, I just had a look at this afternoon. The recent 2 years, actually, it was predominantly writers, which is interesting. We did have the odd director come in 3 years ago. Producer come in 3 years ago. What we have seen is in the last 11 years, 11 iterations, 22 debut feature films have followed in the subsequent years after they've done FilmUp. So those writers or writer-directors have done FilmUp, and then a number of years later, they've made their first feature. Now, some of those features would have come through FilmUp as their project, and some of them wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been that project. But it seems to indicate to me that the FilmUp process was useful in their journey. And so that's probably why it continues to get funded from the Film Commission, because there's an outcome that they really want, which is people making their films. Not just firsts, but, their feature films. You'll know this from the website, but you've got about 3 weeks before the deadline. It's the 10th of November at 1 p.m. We always have a 1 p.m. deadline so we can get to processing the applications on the day and then get them out to our readers the next day or the day after, as quickly in that week as we can. And then, by the early December, we'll have a selection. It doesn't start until kind of April. We're thinking maybe late March, early April time, and runs until November next year. But we thought it'd be good to get people kind of on board, and so they can book their time off or whatever it is for the in-person hub days and things like that in plenty of time. So, but it doesn't start till April. As I said, open to writer, directors, producers, and the overview is there's 20 hours of mentorship that we're funding. So this one-to-one mentorship with a mentor. The mentor is very bespoke, as I mentioned before. So we work with you to find the right person or people, if it's not one person, but it's that 20 hours we've got in the budget. And these can range from people within the actual art form. So say you're a writer, an actual writer, someone working at that level. It could be someone as a story editor, or it may be other people within the industry that you're looking for advice from and support. Although it's a mentorship that is focused on you and your development, and you've got a project, it's not a project mentorship as such. It's more wider than that in terms of supporting your craft and hopefully your career as well. Yes, the project we hope will be progressing through this mentorship, but the project is very much a vehicle for the mentorship. We're not looking for a project outcome. We don't need another draft at the end of it. We don't need another version of it, or it doesn't have to have moved into getting funding or anything like that. It's great if it does, of course, because that's helping you. But sometimes I find in mentorships, the project still stays core, but actually there's lots of other gold that happens outside of that and actually helps your career. There's 20 hours of one-to-one mentorship. There's these 5 hubs that we have across that 8 months, and 3 of them will be in person. And 2 of them will be online. And the in-person ones at the moment, we anticipate are 2 days. And so people outside of Auckland can, maybe it's one-night accommodation, which we have, and we'll cover that, of course. So normally we've had them on the Friday and the Saturday. So really it's only 1 day off work if that's what you need to do. And then you've got your Saturday. So your 5 hubs, the online ones tend to be a half day, might extend to a full day, but online's pretty tough on a full day, so we tend to keep those a bit shorter. This year, for the first time, we haven't had this before. On top of the mentorship and the hub days, we're fortunate to have a little bit more putia in the pot, so we're going to allocate up to $2,000 per person within the hub, so the 8 people, and that can be used for additional support. And we'll agree it, what you want to spend it on before you do, and then off you go. You can maybe, I don't know, do a workshop with a group of actors, or you could hire someone else to give you, in-depth script notes on a feature film or whatever it may be. So maybe your mentor's that's not their skill set. You might want a script development kind of service kind of thing. So looking at that kind of $2,000 being spent on something else that'll help you and develop both your project and your skills. We'll cover obviously all the accommodation and travel that you need if you're outside of Auckland for the in-person days, and any other access needs you might have. We can address those. And then, like all script to screen programs, we have a lot of wraparound support. Like we have a team here that can, be here for phone calls and feedback and all sorts of things in between the hubs and the mentorship. And really, our role is to look after you through this process to make sure the mentorship's working the way you want it to, make adjustments where possible if needed, but also be a sounding board for you, your project, and your process and progress as you go. And then following the program, all alumni from our programs can access the UFI program, which is a way in which alumni can support each other. It's very informal in a lot of ways. You sign up to it if you want to offer support to others or to receive support, and then you can reach out to each other and get that support. And we just connect you up. So there's no funding involved in that space. It's just a way of upping each other after programs, which works really well. So that's FilmUp in a nutshell. I thought I'd just add a little bit more detail. So the hub days, as I said, we're planning on 3 in-person hub days in Auckland. Actually, 2 of them are 2 days, and 1 of them is 1 day. And then we'll have those 2 online sessions, which will probably be as a half day, as I said. We have got dates out there. They are still to be confirmed, of course, but they're an indicator for you that it's around that date and probably will be that date. So if there's work or other life kind of things, you can start thinking about that once we make selections by the end of the year, which is why we've published them. They'll be even firmer by the end of the year. The only reason I say they're not totally locked down, one, we do Big Screen Symposium, and we're likely to do Big Screen Symposium again next year. And we've thought that middle hub day, the 3rd hub, might align with being in and around Big Screen Symposium. So once that gets locked, we can lock that actual date. But I was just looking at the content of the hub days earlier today in prep for this, and I saw that we used to do, like we've done things like in the past where we've had a hub day and then that night, a 2-day hub, and we've done the first day and then we've all gone to a premiere of a film or gone to an industry event. And so I want to keep that option open as well. As we go, if there's an opportunity there where you can gain some more value from something else that's going on, it's great to have a little bit of flexibility in that. But recognize that as soon as we can lock down dates, the better for all our busy lives. In terms of the hubs themselves, just to give a bit of a sense of the content of those. So they do vary depending on the cohort, as you can imagine. If you have a majority writers or producers or directors, you're going to kind of lean it in one way or the other. But just to give you a bit of an idea, most of the hubs, certainly the earlier ones, we have participant update on their project and their mentorship. So how's it going? Maybe a presentation about their project or where their project's at the moment, and then maybe in another hub or 2 hubs time, you might do another update on that, which is really useful for the cohort to hear from each other about where they're going and maybe some of the challenges they're experiencing. I always find with all our kaupapa, the cohort is actually really gold for people. That sense of support for each other and advice and guidance from your peers is really, really useful. So we introduce that and we bring that into the hub for most of the hubs. We obviously have had things like story development workshops, masterclasses, deep story development kind of processes. We've had workshops or masterclasses on sessions on screenplay language, the way in which screenplays are written, demystifying some of that because that can be a bit of a mystery sometimes. And then we have guest speakers, and they can speak on all sorts of subjects. In the last 2 hubs, because we obviously didn't run it last year, but the last 2 hubs we did things like editing, music, and working with composers, cinematography. We did legal and music rights, that old chestnut that catches everyone out by putting an amazing song in the opening scene of your film, and so we talk about that. Directing feature films, often bringing in, especially if we've got a group of people who haven't made their first feature, bringing in first-time feature film directors and talking through the process. And it's a closed shop. It's very much Chatham House rules, so it's not recorded, and people can talk honestly, which I think is gold. Working with actors, sessions like that, working with distributors and other partners, key players. And as I said before, we've also managed to attend events or attend premieres and things like that and support other other kaupapa, which has been great. So that's kind of the overview. I said I wasn't going to talk very much, and I've talked for 17 minutes, so I need to stop. So the final thing is everyone always wonders what makes a successful application, or what are you looking for? And the truth is, I'm not sure you know what you're looking for until you read it, and then you go, "Hell, that's what I was looking for today." But for FilmUp, it's very much, as I said, feature film focused, and like most of our programs, Story Camp as well. It really is a mix of the voice of the artist, the writer, the director, the producer, the creative. You're all creative people, so it's your voice. It's what you want to say and how you want to say it. Your unique take on the world or angle on the world and the project itself, and is it captivating? Is it interesting? Does it align with the person I'm reading about? And then we look at things like previous work and where you're at in your journey. And specifically for Film Up, is this the right kaupapa for you, where you are and where you want to get to with this project and with your career journey? And do we think it's a good fit for you in terms of where you're kind of pitching yourself, what you want to get out of it, the type of mentor you want? We do ask you to identify the mentor or the mentors. I was talking to someone just yesterday about this, and it's not the specifics around that person. There are specifics around certain people that when you mention them, they give us great ideas about the type of person you're wanting to work with, and so that's why it's good to give us an idea of a few people. Oh, actually, these are the types of mentors I'm interested in. We all know that people want someone significant in the industry half the time, but aiming for international people or aiming for someone who is really at the top of the tree just for the sake of it isn't really that helpful. It's someone who's really their work and the way in which they go about their mahi really speaks to you as an artist, I think is the most important thing. So yes, nearly everyone puts down Taika at some point, in one of the applications they come in for script to screen. But what is it about that voice or that person's methodology, the way in which they go about it, that speaks to you? Not just that you want access to someone really high profile. It is hard to get high profile people, of course. We're happy to reach out if we feel like they're the appropriate people. We do have mentors from New Zealand and Australia often, and further afield if we can. And as the mentorship doesn't have to be in person, it can be online. It's certainly opened up a number of opportunities. And if we think about the last round, we did have, definitely one, but I think two international mentors that weren't based in Aotearoa. So yeah, it's easy to facilitate that once we get them on board. We're not huge. Yeah, we're funded for it, but it's not a huge amount of money we get. So it's a creative exchange more than a financial exchange. They are paid, of course, for their time, which is why we say it's 20 hours, because we want to recognize that someone is giving 20 hours. But we often know that mentorships are a lot more than that in terms of the time away from the one-to-one, but also it often builds into friendships and other things which we really value, and are thankful for the generosity of our industry to give back in that way. So I think I've covered everything that I was meant to cover. I may not, but I'm sure your questions will tease things out. So why don't we go to questions? Now you can either I don't know if you can put your hand up. Oh, you can put your hand up, or you could write in the chat box. I'm just going to open the chat box so I can see it. Tessa's asked, do you want us to use the full word count in each question box? I actually don't know what the word count is, but no. If you can say it in 3 words rather than 100 words, then do it. Because remember, brevity works. I think it's say what you have to say. Hopefully we haven't made it too short that you can't get everything in you need to. What I find with all applications actually is I myself, I do this all the time. I read all my answers and I feel like I've answered. I'm repeating myself in the 3rd or 4th answer, and I realize that I'm like a lot of creatives. We answer the why question all the time. Why are we doing this? Because that's our emotive driver. But sometimes it's good to say what are we doing, or how we're doing it, or who we're doing it with, or whatever. Some of the more practical stuff. So if you feel like you're repeating yourself, you might have already answered the question, and go back and read the question again. Think about what what it is we're asking. But no, you don't need to use the full word count. Absolutely not. It doesn't go against you at all. As long as we've got the full information, that's all that matters. Can you apply for StoryCamp and FilmUp? Yes, if you have already applied for StoryCamp, obviously because it's closed. Yes. Yeah, there's no clash. StoryCamp is all done by March, and then FilmUp starts in April. So there is no actual physical clash. Um, is there I mean, no, yeah, there's nothing to stop you doing it. And we're more than open to it. If you got into StoryCamp, would it affect FilmUp? I mean, they're different panels. So we have industry panels that assess things. I sit on both, obviously sit on them, but we have different people. So if you ended up top of the tree on StoryCamp, top of the tree on FilmUp, then you'd 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 get to do both. I guess from my point of view, I might actually think, well, is it fair for someone to get, because it's public money and you think, oh, I do like to share it around. I do like people to have a go. I mean, there's only 8 places on both of them, so I do feel like it's a bit stink if someone gets 2 of them and someone else doesn't. But genuinely, if it's in the top mix and there's no debate, then of course, yeah. We should stop aligning our programs, really, shouldn't we? We should stagger them a bit more. But yeah, no, you're definitely eligible for both. Go for it. Go for it. And I mean, I do say this genuinely, apply for every single program you can. Every single bit of development money, any kind of development programs of any kind. There is so little, and there's such little amount of money that we available in New Zealand for development. We've got to go for everything. We've got to go. And my theory is you get 100% of a no for not applying. So you might as well apply. The odds, the numbers aren't great. It's competitive and contestable. But you're not going to get it if you don't apply. So yeah, I suggest everyone apply. I know I repeat to myself, I've said that when I'm reading currently 57 screenplays for StoryCamp, but so it's a lot of work, but that's by the by. We just give them extra readers. Tumaya, got a hand up.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, kia ora.
So I was wondering, I know with Story Camp there was like a focus on kaupapa that were further along in
Mm,
development.
mm,
If you're like somebody that maybe has a couple of projects on the burner,
mhm.
is there a moment in development that is like gives you the best chance? Like, is it better to have a later draft? Is it better to have a treatment that can like be developed through mentorship?
Very good question. I think in the past, and now, FilmUp has catered for projects at any stage because it's bespoke to the individual and where the project's at. So, for example, we've had directors come in that are making feature films that are in the post and wanting mentorship, specifically in that area of working with editors, working with composers, working with, I guess, distributors on those final notes that are coming when you've already created the clay but not the film, so you've got the unformed aspect of it. And so it's been interesting that end. And then we've had people who've come in, yeah, pre kind of first draft, and it's been about the story development and the crafting and the writing of that story. What I would say is the individuals will need, it's probably not for brand newbies. Not that you have to have made a feature before, but in terms of the writing space, probably writers that are new to emerging may not get through rather than emerging. But your project itself, I think the further the project's on might be useful. Yeah, a little bit, but I don't actually think if it's a first draft, it's sometimes the best time to crack it open with a great writing mentor and before you've locked down too much. So yeah, good question. Good question. Hope I answered it. Cool. People saying thank you, thank you. You're more than welcome. Does the Film Up program cover distribution and New Zealand on air funding? It doesn't. Well, not specifically New Zealand on air funding, although all our programs, we're happy to talk about all sorts of, other things. I mean, we're there together in the hub. There's nothing stopping us having an afternoon on funding and talking about the landscape of funding, what's available, what isn't, how you access it, things like that. So yeah, absolutely. We probably would do at least a session on that at some point throughout the hubs. It won't deep dive into TV funding because it's a feature film lab. But I think it's daft to pretend it doesn't, it's not helpful. Distribution, absolutely. So we've done it before, and we'll definitely do it again. We'll bring in our friends from distribution companies, all of the ones in Aotearoa. They're desperate to meet people. In fact, I ran into someone last night from Madman at the Pike River premiere, which was amazing, by the way. You have to go and see it. Absolutely, obviously we know the story, but yeah, just amazing, so inspiring, and beautifully told by um, by Rob Sarkis and Fiona Samuel, the writer, and Vicky Pope. Just gorgeous work. But I was reminded last night, Madman, Ariana from Madman and Luke from Umbrella were saying they want to catch up and talk about writers and talk about scripts that we're aware of and who's out there. So they are desperate to find out who's out there and what you've got. They want to come on board early, like really early. They're not interested in you know, the other end of it. They distribute the film, but a lot of good distributors want to come on early and help guide you in some way, not control you, but guide you in terms of, okay, well, if this is the film you're telling, the story you're telling, this is the likely market, and let's talk about it early doors. So yeah, so they'll definitely be a part of it. Hope that's useful. Okay, Waimarama, what are new writer? Hang on. Can't quite say if it works. Judged on. Oh, okay. Writers with little experience. Yeah, you're too short for them. Yeah, cool. Yeah, this kind of it's an ongoing question, isn't it? Really. How do you find new emerging, writers, especially? I think so. My take on it, and there is no hard and fast rule. Once again, apply for everything. But I think writers who have been writing content for a while and getting stuff made, whether it's self-funded, absolutely fine. Done it myself most of my life. Get your shorts, make something, even 48 hours, just making stuff, and then also flexing your muscles in terms of your longer form. If you're into feature films, obviously this is what this lab's about. But writers that have been writing shorts, absolutely, and now this is their first feature. They've maybe written a draft or two. They've maybe got another story in their head as well. I don't know. Then absolutely, this is the right co-popper. It's really hard because actually the truth of it is writers are amazing, and actually just honing your craft and delivering an amazing story can grab people, and you may not have had many runs on the board at all. And I think we're always open to that. It's harder for directors and producers actually to convince, if you're not a writer, to convince people that they're at the right level if they haven't actually got some runs on the board. But writers, we read your work. And then, um, it is hard at feature film level. I recognize that. I'm reading Story Camp at the moment, and the less experienced writers, you can see the slight craft difference between them and people who have got, maybe even more work in theatre or in other forms, novels, short stories, those kind of things. There's just a craft of storytelling that you kind of get a sense of, but that's not to say you can't get there. And once again, yeah, just if you're writing, you're a writer. And yeah, it used to be experience in the industry and all of that, but I think it's hard to define that now. People are working in all sorts of myriad of different ways. So I may not have answered your question, Waimarama, but I think yeah, I know your work. I just think yeah, you're at the right level. Come on in. Another one. What is the best advice for a writer who hasn't had things published? Well, that is the $1 million question. What do you do? I think. Once again, I still encourage writers to apply because you just don't know. You just don't know. And actually, putting things in, you get feedback. I'm willing to have a call and have a chat. You'll get panelists reading your work, which is always useful. In a career sense, I think the most important thing for a writer is to start building those links with people who, if you're not a writer/director, which we don't, we have a number of them, but we seem to have a more writers/directors in New Zealand. But if you're not that, then you've got to find some allies, you've got to find some connections. And I just really recommend film festivals, 48 Hours, the short film competition. Show Me Shorts is on at the moment. Look at the Film Commission website and just see who's been funded. Watch their work if you can get hold of it and go, I'm really inspired by that director or that producer's work. It kind of aligns with the stories I'm interested in telling. And then just, social media stalk them basically and find them. Get hold of us, we might know them, and we can do an e-introduction. And it really is about connections. And in the screen industry, it's all about relationships. So we've got some South Shorts. We do a South Shorts workshop here in South Auckland. And one of the writers there, actually two of the writers at the last hub a couple of weeks ago, was saying the same thing, that they just, one of them is, really shy and beautiful writer, amazing writer, but just not into the networking, not into that stuff. And it's like, okay, well, you just need to find a way online or through other networks to try and connect with some people. And actually, South Shorts in that hub, he's got writers and directors in there. So there are people in there that know his work already. So he hadn't thought of that. So yeah, just you might find people in that network. There'll be people on this call here that are looking for great ideas and great stories. Cool. Thank you. If accepted for FilmUp, does this increase your chances of NZFT taking more seriously for funding? Oh, that would be lovely, wouldn't it? Taking you more seriously. Well, I would hope so, without funding it. So, yes, without being cynical, absolutely, you're on the radar. I think probably more so than ever now. Our programs are feeding into or we're making more connections with what the Film Commission is trying to achieve and what our programs are set out to do. And it's happened for a few years now, but it's getting much closer now. So, for example, I've got ideas around both StoryCamp and FilmUp. Can we find a way in which actually the cohort actually get to meet the development execs, for example, at the Film Commission? Just bring them in one day for one of the hubs or another event, not pitch your projects necessarily, but just kind of build those links and those connections. I've always found, and I was obviously at the Film Commission for 9 years, the moment you can become a person to someone at the other end receiving loads and loads of applications, it is harder to turn them down, but it's also harder to turn them down in a dismissive way. You still have to turn down 90% of the people, of course, because of the numbers, but there seems to be this human connection you can make seems to help them treat you with the respect and the money that you deserve, I think. So, yeah, being on these programs can help. There's no guarantee, of course, absolutely none. And if you look at most of our programs, this one and Story Camp being some of the longest running ones, there's a good connection between the people and their projects getting development funding afterwards. It might take a few years, may not be the same project, but it seems to have helped build their confidence, build some skills and craft, and access some money from the Film Commission. Yeah. Cool. The next one. Are there genre, thematic, or audience preferences for the feature film project that you use for application? Absolutely not. An animated feature. Well, that's always interesting, isn't it? Aimed at children? Absolutely fine. No barrier whatsoever. Because, as I said, it's very bespoke to you and your project and your journey that you're on and the types of work you want to make. When I saw animated feature, I naturally go, they're really hard to get up in New Zealand, as you can imagine, because they're not cheap. Take a long time. But once again, your mentor could be an international person that works in that space, whether it's in Australia or wider afield. So absolutely. There is a big push for animation in Aotearoa. I don't know if you've seen recently, the Film Commission have spent a bit of time focusing on animation in the short space to try and build people's capacity and show reels and stuff. So the Catalyst funding, the $100,000 short film, they had a special round for animation. And there's a lot of talk about connections between us and Ireland because they have a great animation community over there, and whether we can try and get some more co-productions in the animation space. So yeah, absolutely. No, always open to that. Yeah, I do notice we're getting more, I guess what you call hard genre coming through in scripts, which is interesting. We get a lot of drama, of course, but certainly in this round of Story Camp, even we've had a number of mashup genres, some horror films. It's been great. It's good for the reader, it's great because you're not just reading the same type of content all the time. Okay, for links to previous work, does it need to be from a released project or would an upcoming sneak peek work? Well, I'd love to see a sneak peek. That would be good. I won't share it with anyone. Or else does it have to be a full film or would a trailer do? Oh my goodness. Well, you've got a range of work if you're submitting a feature film. As long as we get enough of the previous, like a trailer, I'm not so sure about. Like, it's a bit like people when they send show reels with lots of clips of different things. you sometimes don't get a sense of their voice or their artistry and their craft. So I'm not so sure about a trailer, but I think the sneak peek, as I said, I'd love to see. But or something else that just speaks to your voice. I think that's all we're really looking for in the previous workspace. The actual project you're going to work on for the feature film you're going to work on through your mentorship. Um, the key thing there is identifying what stage it's at and why you want this mentorship to help you. I think that's the key question in our panelists' minds when they're going to be reading your proposals. Is okay. This is a mentorship program first and foremost with these amazing hubs. We can develop that kind of craft and insight into a wider range of things. But the project itself and the mentorship, the project's at X stage, and this mentorship's really going to help that person, yeah, as I said earlier, finish the editing and really support them into that release phase. Or it's actually as Tamaya was talking about, it's at the script stage, and actually it's going to be deconstructing the script, pulling it apart, and going back to what are the core story elements and beats of the story. Cool. Okay, next question. Let's scroll down. Oh, there we go. Is the mentorship specifically for writer, director, producer, first feature? No, no, not technically. It often does attract first feature level talent. And possibly that speaks to what Isaac was talking about when you get your team together. So if you've made a feature, often, not always, but often a lot of that team are then moving to the next one and helping support you. So maybe there's that informal mentorship going on. So you maybe don't need this co-publisher as much, but it's not specifically for first feature at all. Cool, cool, cool. Oh, yes, cool. I did answer that earlier question. It's good. Does the story need to be set in Aotearoa? Good question. No. It is funded by the Film Commission, and so I recommend you look at, and I can't point you in the right direction, but it's on the Film Commission website. Just put something like definition of a New Zealand film or the criteria for a New Zealand film. There is a criteria in there which kind of indicates what you need. And that is similar to the criteria for, say, co-production agreements between countries, or getting the rebate, the incentive side of the funding from the government. And so something could be set in space. It could be an animation, kids animation we talked about earlier. So it could be completely fictitious. So it doesn't have to be set in Aotearoa at all. What is important is that you are a New Zealand citizen or permanent resident because it's public money from the government. And secondly, that you're likely to make that film here, because we obviously want to give back to our industry and support our industry and grow our industry. That doesn't mean that, well, in a co-production sense, you might be writing something. I mentioned before, Ireland is pretty aligned with us in the animation space. It might be actually it's an Irish-New Zealand co-production, so half of it could be made there and half of it here, depending on how you split it. So that kind of stuff. Some stories lend themselves to that. Australia-New Zealand stories, and I know there's a big conversation on Indian stories and Indian kind of connection with New Zealand on all sorts of levels. So I suspect we're going to see more of those stories coming through. But yeah, something that you want to make here predominantly, and can be set anywhere. Oh, is there a preference for feature or documentary? No, not at all. Actually, I don't know if you can see behind me. I think misinformation documentary might have come through FilmUp. No, Threesome went through one of them. Might have been FilmUp or Story Camp. I'm not sure. So no, documentaries very, very welcome and great. We don't get a lot. Actually, I'm not sure about FilmUp. For Story Camp, we don't get a lot of applications for documentaries. We get a few, but the majority are narrative. But for FilmUp, I'm not sure. But yeah, we've tended to always have a documentary or two in there. And also, I don't know if anyone's asked it, but I know Monique put it in my list of possible questions tonight because she's very ahead of the game. We've got 8 places. What's the kind of breakdown? Writer, director, producer. There is no set requirement. Like I went, literally, as I said earlier, went back to last year's program and looked at it, and it was pretty much all writers. There was one, I think, writer producer, but it was pretty much a writer cohort. And I wasn't part of the selection process. I'm not sure why that ended up, but subsequent years before, obviously we've had a bigger mix of writers and directors and producers. So it's not, we're not hell bent on having a good range of all of them. Really just depends who's coming in. Okay. And one of the optional answers regarding, hang on, I have to extend my thing again. Other active project. We're asked to provide title of the project, but if the project is being assessed for something that is reading blind, such as corporate archae, is it okay to provide a generic answer? We don't read blind. We don't do blind assessment at all.
I'll jump in here, Dale.
Yeah,
You misread that.
Oh, did I?
So if they're applying for something that is being blind read, so yes, probably write it as untitled or something like that.
Bit of a challenge, blind reads sometimes. Very good. Okay, is FilmUp and Story Camp a similar caliber of writers? Good question. Story Camp. So yeah, is FilmUp and Story Camp? I don't know if I actually repeated that. A sort of similar caliber of writers. I would say yes, but because Story Camp is first and foremost and primarily a script development lab, the quality bar is probably higher in terms of the experience level or the craft level, not experience level, the craft level in Story Camp. So it doesn't mean that the script is further on in terms of its journey and its iterative process, because some projects are being broken apart when they come in. That's absolutely legit. But yes, I would say that the craft level of a Story Camp script probably needs to be at a higher level or a more advanced level than potentially a FilmUp application. They're not wildly different, but because once again, they're not probably for brand newbie writers starting out, never written anything before. I think just because it's competitive. We tend to get, I think we got 60 applications last year for 8 places. So it's, it becomes contestable, pretty quickly.
Can I
Okay.
jump in here?
Yeah. Go.
I just have one that I've read up earlier. So the FilmUp's for individuals, not for teams, but we do get quite a lot of co-writers through a lot of our programs. So correct me if I'm wrong, Dale, but both co-writers are completely eligible to apply for for FilmUp, excuse me. But you both need to apply separately. And it's not going to discount either of you that you're both applying with the same project that you're working on. And it doesn't have to be just co-writers. It could be the producer of that project is also applying, and then a writer wants to apply as well. But just because one team member could be successful doesn't mean the rest of your team could be successful. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely perfect. Good. Yes, I just said that to someone yesterday or the day before. So yeah, you won't discount each other. The majority of you haven't applied before. So I hope you've looked at it's a pretty simple application, I think, but just once again, I always think it's wise to reread the question sometimes. Once you've answered it, then just go back and reread the question again, read it out loud if you have to, or get someone else to read the question, and then hear it for the first time again and go, have I actually answered that? Oh yeah, and I mentioned it before, just to remind you that when you're thinking of the mentor, really think about, you can think about the person themselves, of course, if you know them, but if you don't, find those people that represent the type of creative, artistic person you are and the way in which you like to work. You may not know that, their methodology, that's fine, but you get a sense from the work they do and the way in which they present themselves in the world that there might be a good connection there. And I think speak to that. I think that's the key thing. I personally find when trying to match people for mentorships is when we find that values connection and that artistic connection marries, and sometimes they're not the most obvious person. Often their work speaks to your work sometimes, in a kind of, you can see the alignment there. but it's also something about a values-based kind of approach. That's hard if you don't know them, obviously, or if you haven't spent any time with them. But you can kind of get a sense from someone when they present themselves in the world, and certainly in their creative world, of what they seem to stand for, or what seems to drive them. It's not going to rule you out either way if you got a group of mentors, or you got one or two that you put in that we think, oh, actually there might be someone else that's probably more appropriate. That's fine, because as I said, it does. Once we select the group, we then go back and we get in touch with you and have a chat about the type of mentor you want. And so we'll do that at the end of the year once we've decided everything. And then we've got plenty of time before April, before we kind of kick off to line it all up. What would your best advice to someone who is eager to write direct, just starting out? Well, what you're doing, get involved in every kaupapa you can. The advice, what's the best advice for someone starting out, eager to write and direct, but just starting out? Well, we're all starting at some point, and we're all in the learning game our whole lives. So my advice is just keep writing, keep making stuff, getting stuff made. And I think, like we said earlier, a couple of the questions, just connections, finding a connection with someone doesn't have to be more experienced or whatever, but just that, as I said before, aligns with your values. It's got your back a bit, because it can be quite isolating, this industry. Although it's lovely and people are really supportive in a lot of ways, it can also feel quite isolating, because where the hell do I go? How do I get a step forward? So finding people for your tribe, I think, is really important. The guilds and obviously Script to Screen and organizations like that are good for being a part of, because that's, by our definition, our job is to connect people. So get along to events and things. And as you are, just make stuff and get it out there. And every time you make something, make sure you invite someone you don't know. Like, just go, okay, I'm going to invite the executive from the Film Commission. I'm just going to email and say, I've got this short film, it's screening tomorrow night at this festival, or it's screening, private screening. If anyone's able to come, I'd love to see you there. When they don't come, if they can't, you then send them a link the next week and say, this is what, this is the film. Really keen to talk to you about my work. And just making those connections are really useful. Yep, make and learn from your mistakes. Absolutely. I've done that. I'm not so sure I've learned that much, but I've certainly made a lot of mistakes. And falling down, it's good to get back up again, or if you've got your peeps around you, they can help pick you up, which is always good. Thank you, Darren. I think the other thing is we get a bit siloed sometimes in one area or one thing we're doing, and actually just being open to other influences. And that's certainly what StoryCamp and FilmUp are about. Is there's a kaupapa that it's fundamentally doing. So FilmUp, mentorship about your feature film and some wider kind of craft and career development. But actually, we might bring in a poet to talk about storytelling, or we might bring in someone else just to unlock things, or a theatre maker or something, and just to talk about different art forms and different storytelling techniques, because sometimes we can get a bit wedded to things, or a bit kind of railroaded a little bit, and it doesn't always help our art form. So remembering it's an art form first and foremost. Sometimes we forget that. We think it's something else, but it's good to focus on that, I find.
Yeah, kia ora. I don't really have a question, because it just got answered before. But what I wanted to I wanted to get myself on the radar. So I did a short film last year called Toda, and my YouTube channel is called Aotearoa Studios. So if you want to go watch my short film Toda, it's about teenage mother suicide. And I'm just in post-production for my second short film, which is Kino, which is about meth, the drug meth in our Māori communities, and how it's destroying our community. So so that's in post-production, and you might know Rongotai. So Rongotai is doing my editing in it.
Oh, nice.
I'm in Hamilton, Hamilton.
Yeah, cool.
And we there's not many sort of filmies here, but we kind of sort of get together, and I've kind of pretty much got film going again back in Hamilton here with my 2 short films.
Cool.
I've written a feature film, and so when I saw this film up, because I haven't done anything sort of with the Film Commission or with any sort of organization, legit organization in the film industry. And because I'm still trying to learn the game and learn the art. But I wrote a feature, and I'm just going through my second draft. And I want to direct it myself. But I think kind of the question I wanted to ask is, when I'm at the stage of, like, once my script is ready to go, it's ready to, do you guys provide like access or contacts to like production houses and professional production houses in New Zealand that can actually, I can get my movie made? Because my son does the camera work for my short films, and he's still young, but he's still learning the camera game. But I got him anyway because I don't know how to do camera, but he does. But when I do a feature film, because I find short films you can just experiment a lot, make all your mistakes, and
absolutely.
When I crack onto a feature, I want it to be professional. I want a good DOP. I want a good sort of producer. I want just a good crew, just a good professional crew. Do you guys, or I mean, doing this FilmUp thing, will I have access to meet those types of people?
Yeah, so good question. I absolutely. We don't do a kind of matchmaking service, but we do have a lot of people come in. So for the hubs, for example, we'll have guest speakers, and we might bring in, say, the chief exec of one of the major production companies to come and talk about working with them specifically in the feature film space, how they, like South Pacific Pictures, for example, or Greenstone, or one of those companies, they develop feature films both with film commission money, but also they have resources themselves, and they might invest in a writer to develop a draft or two of their own work. So we might, if the cohort wanted that, we might organize to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Outside of our programs, we're happy to have a conversation with you, have a cordial and go, what type of organization are you looking for? We could do an e-introduction outside of a whole program. The good thing about a program is the people in the program as well might give you some insights into working with different organizations or different cinematographers, different editors, different distributors, that, because it's a closed shop, we can have a conversation, and they might ward you off certain people and go, actually, I wouldn't go down that road because, I didn't have a great experience, or, so that kind of stuff is quite useful as well in the cohort. But absolutely, yeah. The way it works in Aotearoa is, you get some script development funding, and then if you go down that road, and then you start building those networks, you need a producer really as a writer. That's the one thing you need. The producer then starts to bring in the key players and partners. Yeah.
When my film title was in the Mystery Film Flicks last year, and Wairoa Film Festival.
Yeah.
And I know at the Mystery Flicks Festival in Te Awamutu, Mike Jonathan and Piripi Curtis happened to be there.
Yeah.
Come along and watch my short film. And so I was thinking, maybe I should try and get on that dude, Piripi Curtis, for a producer.
Absolutely, tap him. Yeah, well, absolutely. There's great people out there. There's great people. In Rotorua, there's the whole Steambox Collective. There's Piripi. There's a number of them that are great, and they're making great work. So yeah, that's what you want to align with people who, first and foremost, your values align. I think that's key. Like, how you work and how, what you have to haves are, like, this is the way I like to work. I'm not willing to work in that way, so you set your stall out really clearly, and then hopefully the content aligns as well, and then building your team. Absolutely.
And I think it's just you got to be able to network, like sort of talk to people and sort of build some relationships and that.
Yeah, well, I think you're pretty good at that after this. So yeah, there's no. Also, just to mention, the screen office down there, the screen office down there has been in touch with us about supporting a writer's kaupapa down in the Waikato. So we don't know how it's funded yet. We'll have to go looking for some money, but just to let you know that they're active, going, we need to try and do more in our rohi. So yeah, it's cool.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. And everyone now knows the studio and the short films, so you can go and watch the short films, up the numbers. That would be good. Really want to do a feature film on an iPhone. Well, great idea. That would minimize your crew a little bit. Anyone in the space doing that? Well, it has been done before. Not just on iPhone. I think specifically on an iPhone, actually one of the first ones. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It got into Sundance. But yeah, if you Google it, I'm sure you'll find them. Tangerine, there you go. There you go. Look at that. Tumaya off the, see, the young ones, they know how to go. Surprised it didn't come through as an emoji. Yeah, that was a really, really popular film. Did really well. I think it was, I guess, an equal amount of great marketing about the fact that it was shot on an iPhone, and it was shot on an iPhone. But when I saw some of the rigs around that iPhone, it looked more like a camera rig than an iPhone, because the iPhone was in the middle there, but there was all sorts of things off it, and so that it has got better and better and better. And I've seen other projects where I've seen photographs of behind the scenes, and the iPhone's not looking as full of lenses and things. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing that I find about mobile phones, we're actually doing a workshop in Kawerau, actually, just down the road, in November, on mobile phone filmmaking for young people. And one of the things, or two of the things, one, sound is always a problem in that type of stuff. So working out what your sound kind of like building in your sound kind of program plans before you go too far down the line, because sound can be an issue. And secondly, storage, data storage. So those kind of things seem to be, and actually DSLRs have the same issues sometimes in terms of storage. So and sound. So yeah, it's just, sometimes using the regular camera just makes life a little easier. But there is nothing stopping you shooting on an iPhone, and it won't go against you. No, absolutely not. What I would say is, if it's a project that you're pitching that you want to work on, absolutely no. It wouldn't hold you back at all. The technology, the way in which you want to make your film, isn't really something that we're going to make a lot of decisions over. I think the main thing that people would look at is, why are they utilizing this type of technology or this type of methodology for this film? Oh, that makes sense, because it's really intimate, or it's really this, or it's that, or it's found footage. Like there was a lovely short done a few years ago, and it was all found footage. And so they used a phone in that for a lot of it, because they got the angles they wanted, because they could just stick it, under the tree, or they could do whatever. So as long as the methodology makes sense in terms of the story. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Blue Moon as well. Yeah, of course. Steph's local film. Of course. I should have mentioned that first before Tangerine, shouldn't I, Amanda? That's terrible of me. Shot on iPhone as well. Oh, cool. Yeah, I knew he shot it on a phone. Yeah, for 15K. There's no excuse, people.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I think he did it for 7 days, a 7-day shoot at night. So there you go. Go for it, guys.
Actually, it's great. If you haven't seen it, it's a great film, really good film. And I think that's hilarious, because it was obviously shot on modern technology, and it's a lovely little film, great performances. And I watched it on a DVD. How is that? I mean, isn't that crazy? Old school technology. So the cinematographer of Tangerine was the DP for Nora that won the Best Picture last year. So whoever was shooting on an iPhone, there's no excuse. We expect an Oscar from you in the next couple of years. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate you joining us for the Hui tonight. And yeah, lovely to see some faces I haven't seen for a while. It's really lovely. And then lovely to meet some new ones. So once again, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Stay in touch. If you don't apply for this kaupapa, Kei te pai, we'll always have another one coming up. And yeah, keep in touch with us at Script to Screen. But have a great evening. Thanks very much. Ka kite.